Number 21. Money moves. You need to make before 42. Part 1. There are 21 financial decisions that separate people who retire comfortably from people who work until they physically cannot anymore. Most people stumble through their 20s and 30s making the same expensive mistakes, then wake up at 40 wondering why they're still broke despite earning decent money for 2 decades. You've probably felt this, that sinking realization when you check your account balance and wonder where everything went, or that quiet panic when you calculate how far behind you are on retirement savings compared to where you should be. Maybe you're making more money than ever before, but somehow you're not actually getting ahead. According to a Northwestern Mutual study, the average American believes they need $1.7 million to retire comfortably, but the median retirement account balance for people in their 40s is just $63,000. That's not a small gap, that's a catastrophic disconnect between expectation and reality. Move 1. Establish your financial identity before 25. The difference between wealth builders and everyone else starts with a single question. Are you a consumer or an investor? Most people never consciously choose. They default to consumer mode because that's what everyone around them is doing. They see money as something that flows in and flows out, never quite understanding why their bank account looks the same year after year despite promotions and raises. Your financial identity determines every decision you make. Consumers ask, "Can I afford this payment?" Investors ask, "What's the opportunity cost of this purchase?" Consumers buy cars they can barely afford. Investors buy cars they could easily afford, then invest the difference. This isn't about being cheap. This is about understanding that every dollar has exactly one job, and that job is either to disappear forever or to multiply into more dollars. If you're 23 and still treating money like it's just for spending, you're setting yourself up for a decade of financial confusion. Lock in your identity now. Decide you're an investor who occasionally consumes, not a consumer who occasionally saves. Move 2. Automate your savings before lifestyle inflation hits. The moment you get your first real paycheck, something dangerous happens. Your brain immediately recalibrates what normal spending looks like. That apartment you thought was expensive last month suddenly feels reasonable. Those restaurants you used to save for become regular Tuesday destinations. Within 6 months, your expenses have magically expanded to match your income. This is the trap that keeps high earners broke. Set up automatic transfers to savings and investment accounts before you get used to seeing that money. If you're making $50,000, automate 15% before you ever see it. When you get promoted to $60,000, automate that entire raise. Your lifestyle is already sustainable on $50,000. Don't let it inflate just because you can. The psychology here is simple but brutal. Money you never see is money you never spend. Money you see sitting in your checking account will find a way to disappear. Your brain is exceptionally creative at justifying purchases when cash is visible. Move 3. Eliminate high-interest debt before investing. Here's where people get this backwards. They think investing while carrying credit card debt makes them sophisticated. They're contributing to their 401k while paying 22% interest on $5,000 of credit card balances. The math doesn't care about your feelings. Paying off debt with a guaranteed 22% interest rate provides a guaranteed 22% return. Show me an investment that does that consistently. But there's a hierarchy to debt elimination that most people miss. Not all debt is created equal. Your mortgage at 4%? That can wait. Your student loans at 6%? Those can wait. Your credit cards at 22%? Those are financial emergencies disguised as monthly statements. Attack the highest interest rate first. Minimum payments on everything else, then throw every extra dollar at that top rate until it's gone. This is called the avalanche method, and it saves you the most money mathematically. Some people prefer the snowball method where you pay off smallest balances first for psychological wins. That's fine if you need the motivation, but understand you're paying extra for that feeling. Move 4. Build your emergency fund to 3 months minimum. Nothing derails financial progress faster than unexpected expenses hitting an empty savings account. Your car breaks down, and suddenly you're putting repairs on a credit card. Your laptop dies, and you're financing a replacement at 18% interest. Each emergency pushes you further backward, and you spend the next 6 months recovering instead of building wealth. 3 months of expenses is your minimum viable safety net, not 3 months of income. 3 months of what you actually spend. If your monthly burn rate is $3,000, you need $9,000 in an account you don't touch except for genuine emergencies. And no, a sale at your favorite store doesn't qualify. This money should live in a high-yield savings account, not under your mattress or in your checking account where you'll accidentally spend it. Current rates are around 4 to 5%, which means your emergency fund actually grows while it sits there protecting you. But here's what nobody tells you about emergency funds. The real value isn't the money itself. The real value is the psychological shift that happens when you know you can handle whatever comes next. You stop making desperate decisions. You stop accepting terrible job offers because you need the paycheck. You stop staying in situations that don't serve you because you can't afford to leave. Move 5. Maximize your employer match immediately. If your employer offers matching contributions to your retirement account and you're not taking full advantage, you're voluntarily giving up free money. This isn't complicated investing strategy. This is someone offering to double your money instantly, and you're saying no thanks. Let's make this concrete. Your employer matches 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary. You're making $60,000 annually. If you contribute 6%, that's $3,600 from you and $1,800 from them. That's an immediate 50% return before your investments earn anything. There is no stock, no cryptocurrency, no real estate deal that guarantees that kind of instant return. The excuse I hear most often is, I can't afford to contribute right now. But you can't afford not to. That employer match isn't some bonus that might happen. It's part of your compensation package that you're leaving on the table. You're essentially working for less money than you're being offered. Some companies have vesting schedules where you need to stay a certain number of years to keep the match. Check your plan details. Even with vesting requirements, the math usually works out in your favor. But here's the part most people completely miss about employer matches. This isn't retirement money. Not really. This is free money that happens to sit in a retirement account. The moment your employer deposits that match, you've already won. Whether the market goes up or down next week doesn't change the fact that you just got an instant return that professional investors would commit crimes for. Now, once you've secured that employer match, you need to understand that your 401k has probably already done its job for the year. Most employer plans come with investment options that range from mediocre to actively terrible. High expense ratios, limited fund selection, and fees buried so deep in the fine print you'd need an archaeology degree to find them. This is where most financial advice gets it wrong. They tell you to max out your 401k contributions immediately, dumping $23,000 annually into an account with limited options and high fees. That's not optimal. That's lazy. Move 6. Open and max out a Roth IRA. Before contributing more to your 401k, your Roth IRA gives you something your employer's 401k never will. Complete control. You can open a Roth IRA at virtually any brokerage and invest in whatever you want. Low-cost index funds with expense ratios of 0.03% instead of the 0.75% funds your 401k forces on you. That difference might sound trivial until you realize that over 30 years, those extra fees can cost you over $100,000. Same contributions, same returns, different fee structure, and suddenly you're buying someone else a house with your retirement money. The 2025 contribution limit for a Roth IRA is $7,000, or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. Get that money into your Roth before you contribute another dollar beyond your employer match to your 401k. The tax treatment alone makes this worth it. Roth contributions are made with after-tax dollars, but every penny of growth and every withdrawal in retirement is completely tax-free. You're 25 years old, you contribute $7,000 this year, and that money grows to $50,000 by retirement. You pay zero taxes on that $43,000 of growth. Zero. Compare that to a traditional 401k, where you'll pay ordinary income tax on every dollar you withdraw. If you're in the 22% tax bracket in retirement, that's nearly $10,000 going to the IRS instead of funding your life. The Roth IRA is particularly powerful for younger investors who are currently in lower tax brackets. You're paying taxes at today's rates on the seed, which lets you avoid paying taxes at tomorrow's rates on the harvest. And if you believe that tax rates are more likely to go up than down over the next few decades, which seems like a pretty safe bet given government spending patterns, locking in today's rates starts looking like the deal of the century. But there's a catch, because there's always a catch. High earners face income limits on Roth IRA contributions. For 2025, if you're single and making more than $161,000, or married filing jointly making more than $240,000, you can't contribute directly to a Roth IRA. Notice I said directly. The backdoor Roth conversion exists specifically for this situation. You contribute to a traditional IRA, which has no income limits, then immediately convert it to a Roth IRA. Same result, slightly more paperwork, completely legal. Move 7. If you have a high-deductible health plan, max out your health savings account. Most people treat their HSA like a checking account for medical expenses. They contribute money, they spend it on doctor visits, and they never think about it again. This is leaving enormous amounts of money on the table. Your HSA is actually the most tax-advantaged account in the entire tax code. Contributions are tax-deductible, growth is tax-free, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are tax-free. That's triple tax advantage. Your 401k doesn't have that. Your Roth IRA doesn't have that. Nothing else comes close. The 2025 contribution limits are $4,300 for individual coverage and $8,550 for family coverage. If you're 55 or older, add another $1,000. But here's where the strategy gets interesting. Don't use your HSA for current medical expenses if you can avoid it. Pay those expenses out of pocket, keep your receipts, and let your HSA money grow invested in the market. There's no time limit on reimbursing yourself for medical expenses. You could have a doctor visit today, keep the receipt, and reimburse yourself from your HSA 30 years from now. In the meantime, that money compounds tax-free. After age 65, your HSA essentially becomes a traditional IRA. You can withdraw money for any purpose, paying only ordinary income tax on non-medical withdrawals. But medical expenses remain tax-free forever. Given that healthcare costs in retirement average over $300,000 per couple, having a substantial HSA balance means you're covering one of retirement's biggest expenses with completely tax-free money. The requirement for HSA eligibility is having a high-deductible health plan. For 2025, that means a deductible of at least $1,600 for individual coverage or $3,200 for family coverage. If your employer offers this option and you're relatively healthy, the combination of lower premiums plus HSA contributions usually comes out ahead of traditional health plans, even if you have moderate medical expenses. Move 8. Now finally, you can max out. Your 401k, after securing your employer match, maxing your Roth IRA, and filling your HSA if eligible. Now you can return to your 401k and contribute up to the annual limit. For 2025, that's $23,500, or $31,000 if you're 50 or older. At this point, you're sheltering serious money from taxes. Between your 401k, IRA, and HSA, you could be putting away over $40,000 annually in tax-advantaged accounts. This is where wealth building accelerates beyond what most people think is possible. You're not just saving money, you're creating a machine that generates more money automatically. The compound growth on $40,000 annually, assuming 7% returns, puts you at over $4 million in 30 years. That's not speculation, that's mathematics. And that $4 million isn't even accounting for employer contributions, which could add another several $100,000 to the total. You're not just planning for retirement at this point, you're building generational wealth. But here's what nobody tells you about maxing out tax-advantaged accounts. The real benefit isn't just the tax savings, it's the forced discipline. When that money comes out of your paycheck automatically, you never see it. You can't spend what you don't see. Your lifestyle adjusts to your take-home pay. And suddenly you're living comfortably on less than you thought possible while your net worth climbs every single month. The psychological shift is profound. Most people feel broke because they see money and immediately spend it. When you automate your savings through payroll deductions, you never experience that temptation. The money disappears before your brain can start making plans for it. This is behavioral economics working in your favor instead of against you. Now, if you've maxed out all your tax-advantaged options and you still have money left over, congratulations. You're officially in the top tier of American savers. Most people never reach this point. But if you do, that's when we move to the next level. Taxable brokerage accounts. This is where wealthy people keep the money that doesn't fit anywhere else. No contribution limits, no withdrawal penalties, complete flexibility. You can invest in whatever you want, sell whenever you want, and use the money for whatever you want without worrying about early withdrawal penalties or required minimum distributions. The downside is taxes. You'll pay taxes on dividends every year. You'll pay capital gains taxes when you sell investments for a profit. The IRS gets their cut, which is exactly why taxable accounts come last in the optimal order. You only put money here after you've exhausted every tax-advantaged option available to you. But taxable accounts have advantages that retirement accounts don't. Need money for a house down payment in 3 years? You can't pull from your 401k without penalties, but your taxable account is completely accessible. Want to retire at 45? Your retirement accounts are locked until 59 and a half, but taxable accounts give you the bridge funding you need to stop working decades before traditional retirement age. There's also the step-up in basis, which is one of the most underutilized wealth transfer strategies in existence. When you die, your heirs inherit your taxable investments at their current market value, not what you originally paid for them. All those capital gains you accumulated over decades, they disappear for tax purposes. Your kids can sell everything immediately and pay zero capital gains tax. That's a massive advantage for estate planning that retirement accounts simply don't offer. The strategy for taxable investing is different from retirement accounts. In your 401k or IRA, you want investments that generate high dividends or frequent trading activity because you're not paying taxes on any of that growth. But in taxable accounts, you want tax-efficient investments. Index funds that rarely distribute capital gains. Growth stocks that appreciate without paying dividends. Municipal bonds that generate tax-free interest. You're optimizing for after-tax returns, not just total returns. An investment that generates 10% returns but costs you 3% in annual taxes is worse than an investment that generates 9% returns but only costs you 1% in taxes. The 8% after-tax return beats the 7% after-tax return, even though the headline numbers look better on the first investment. This is where most people screw up their taxable accounts. They invest the same way they do in retirement accounts, generating unnecessary tax bills every year. They buy actively managed mutual funds that churn their portfolios and distribute capital gains. They day trade and rack up short-term capital gains, taxed at ordinary income rates. They turn what should be a tax-efficient wealth-building tool into an IRS feeding trough. If you're serious about building wealth in taxable accounts, you need to think like the wealthy think. Buy and hold. Minimize turnover. Favor investments that defer taxes as long as possible. Use tax loss harvesting to offset gains with losses. These strategies can save you thousands of dollars annually in taxes you don't legally have to pay. And here's something that'll change how you think about investing altogether. Once you have money in taxable accounts, you can start using more sophisticated strategies that aren't available in retirement accounts. You can invest in individual real estate properties. You can become an angel investor in startups. You can buy into private equity funds or hedge funds if you qualify as an accredited investor. These alternative investments often have higher potential returns than traditional stocks and bonds, but they also come with higher risk and less liquidity. That's why they belong in taxable accounts after you've secured your financial foundation through retirement accounts. You're not betting your future on speculative investments. You're using excess capital to potentially accelerate your wealth building beyond what traditional investments can achieve. The wealthy don't keep all their money in index funds. They diversify across asset classes most people never consider. Real estate, private businesses, commodities, intellectual property, even litigation funding or farmland. They understand that true diversification means owning different types of assets that respond differently to economic conditions, not just owning different stocks within the same market. But none of these advanced strategies matter if you haven't mastered the basics first. Emergency fund, high-interest debt elimination, employer match, maxed retirement accounts. These fundamentals are non-negotiable. They're the foundation everything else is built on. Skip them, and your entire financial house collapses eventually, no matter how clever your investment strategy looks on paper. Most people never complete this sequence. They get stuck at step 2 or 3 and spend decades wondering why they're not building wealth. Meanwhile, the people who follow this system methodically, step by step, without trying to skip ahead to the exciting parts, end up with net worths that seem impossible to everyone else. The difference isn't intelligence or income. It's discipline and patience. It's understanding that wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint. It's being willing to do boring things consistently for years while everyone else chases excitement and ends up broke. You now know the exact order to invest your money for maximum tax efficiency and wealth accumulation. The question is whether you'll actually follow it or whether you'll join the majority of people who know what they should do but somehow never quite get around to doing it. Let's be honest about something nobody wants to admit. Following this investment order doesn't guarantee you'll become wealthy. What it guarantees is that you won't sabotage yourself with stupid mistakes that keep most people broke forever. There's a massive difference between those two things, and understanding that difference determines whether you're actually going to succeed or just feel good about having a plan you never execute. See, most people treat financial advice like they treat diet books. They read it, they nod along, they think, yeah, that makes sense, and then they do absolutely nothing different with their lives. They'll watch this entire video, maybe even take notes, and then tomorrow they'll still be dumping money into a taxable brokerage account while carrying credit card debt at 22% interest. The information doesn't change behavior because knowing what to do and actually doing it are completely separate skills. What separates the people who build wealth from the people who just talk about building wealth? It's not intelligence. Some of the smartest people I know are completely broke. It's not income either. Plenty of six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck, while some school teachers are quietly becoming millionaires. The difference is something far simpler and far more uncomfortable to acknowledge. Wealthy people treat their future selves like actual human beings who matter. Broke people treat their future selves like fictional characters who will somehow figure things out later. When you're deciding between contributing to your retirement account or buying something you want right now, you're essentially choosing between two versions of yourself: present you, who wants the thing, and future you, who needs the security. Most people choose present you every single time, and then they act shocked when future you ends up desperate and unprepared. Here's what nobody tells you about this investment sequence. The hardest part isn't the middle or the end, it's getting started. Building that first emergency fund feels impossible when you're living on tight margins. Paying off debt feels like trying to empty an ocean with a bucket. Contributing to retirement accounts means watching money disappear from your paycheck that you could be using for things you want right now. Everything about the beginning of this process is designed to make you quit. Your brain is actively working against you during this phase. It's not designed for long-term planning. It's designed for immediate survival and instant gratification. When you skip that restaurant meal to put $50 into your emergency fund, your brain registers that as a loss. It doesn't care that future you will benefit. It only knows that present you just suffered. This is why willpower alone never works. You can't white-knuckle your way through decades of disciplined investing. You need systems that make the right choices automatic. Automate everything possible. Set up automatic transfers to your emergency fund the day after you get paid. Enroll in automatic retirement contributions through payroll deduction. Make it so the money never hits your checking account where you'll be tempted to spend it. Remove the decision-making process entirely because every decision is an opportunity to fail. The wealthy don't have more willpower than you. They've just built systems that don't require willpower in the first place. But even with perfect systems, you're going to face moments where this entire plan feels pointless. You'll see coworkers driving new cars while you're driving your paid-off 10-year-old sedan. You'll watch friends take exotic vacations while you're contributing to your HSA. You'll feel like you're missing out on life while everyone else is living. This is the test that determines everything. Can you stay focused on your own path when everyone around you is sprinting in a different direction? Those people aren't your competition. They're not even running the same race. Most of them are accumulating debt, not wealth. They're choosing present consumption over future security. And here's the brutal truth about that choice. It feels great for years until suddenly it doesn't. The consequences of financial decisions don't show up immediately. They compound silently in the background until one day you wake up at 50 years old with nothing saved and no time left to fix it. Meanwhile, you're building something that doesn't look impressive year to year but becomes unstoppable over decades. Your emergency fund grows from $1,000 to $5,000 to $10,000. Your retirement accounts go from a few $100s to a few thousand to eventually hundreds of thousands. Your net worth crosses thresholds you never thought possible. Not because you did anything dramatic, but because you did boring things consistently while everyone else got distracted. This is the part where I'm supposed to give you some motivational speech about believing in yourself and staying committed to your goals. But motivation is garbage. Motivation is what gets you started on January 1st. Systems are what keep you going on March 23rd when everything feels hard and pointless. Build systems that remove decisions. Automate contributions. Track your progress monthly. Surround yourself with people who think long-term. Make it harder to fail than to succeed. The investment order I laid out isn't optional based on your preferences. It's not a menu where you pick your favorite items. It's a sequence that exists because of mathematics and tax law, not opinion. Skip steps, and you're literally giving away money to either credit card companies or the IRS. Follow the sequence, and you keep more of what you earn. It's that simple and that unforgiving. 10 years from now, you'll be in one of two positions. Either you'll have followed this system and built substantial wealth, or you'll still be talking about how you really need to get serious about investing. The difference between those outcomes isn't luck or circumstances. It's the decision you make today about which version of your future self actually matters to you. Your money is already going somewhere. Either it's working for you, working against you, or disappearing into consumption you won't remember in 6 months. This system just redirects it toward the first option instead of the other two. Everything else is details. You've got the map now. The question is whether you'll actually follow it. Most people won't. They'll watch this, they'll nod along, maybe even save it for later. Then they'll go right back to doing exactly what they've always done. They'll keep buying things that depreciate while telling themselves they'll get serious about investing next year. Next year becomes 5 years. 5 years becomes 15. And suddenly they're staring down retirement with nothing but regrets and a closet full of stuff they don't even remember buying. But you're different, right? You watched this far, which means something clicked. Maybe it was realizing that your employer matches free money you're leaving on the table. Maybe it was understanding that your high-interest debt is bleeding you dry while you pretend investing will somehow overcome it. Or maybe it was seeing that there's an actual sequence to this, not just random advice from people who don't know what they're talking about. Here's what happens next. You're going to close this video, and life is going to immediately try to distract you. Something will need your attention. Someone will text you. You'll see something you want to buy, and the urgency you feel right now will start fading. By tomorrow, this will feel like something you'll get to eventually. That's how most people stay broke forever. They treat urgency like it's optional. Don't be most people. Pick one move from this list, just one. Open that Roth IRA account. Set up the automatic transfer to your emergency fund. Calculate how much you need to contribute to get your full employer match. Do something today that your future self will thank you for, because that future self is coming whether you prepare for them or not. The only question is whether they'll arrive wealthy or desperate. Your money is already making someone rich. Either it's making you rich through compound growth in investment accounts, or it's making credit card companies rich through interest payments, or it's making retailers rich through impulse purchases you'll forget about in 3 months. The choice isn't whether your money works. The choice is who it works for. Everything changes when you realize that building wealth isn't about making more money. It's about keeping more of what you make. It's about treating every dollar like it has a job to do. It's about understanding that the difference between financial security and financial stress isn't usually income. It's behavior. 21 moves. Most people won't make it past 3. Be the exception.